how do you, I'm trying to think of how to frame this. How does someone eventually, is it like, I know there's no one path, right? But like with clients you worked with or parents, and you can give kind of examples you feel comfortable with or things you've seen, like what does a lot of people's journey look like? Is it eventually finding, do you see more people go back to faith in your practice and have kind of be able to hold all these different things? And I think they can. Or is it no more? Or is it kind of split? Like, what's your own kind of experience with clients? Because I think it is, if someone's ready and wants, I think it's beautiful to hold all. I do. I think it's important for a lot of people. So I'm just curious what that has looked like for you.
Yeah, I think probably on average, I mean, I mentioned that there are people who leave their faith altogether. It's probably less than half.
Okay.
In that category. I'd say most people, or they might leave faith and come back in some form, but
sure.
I would say what often happens is a lot of folks find a much, what's the word that I'm looking for? A far less organized religious place, right? So maybe you came from a context where you were going to, like a mega church, or there's like more than 1,000 people, or even just a more structured, like we go to a thing on Sunday morning, and then there's kind of these, breakout groups. Some people call them Bible study or small group or whatever. And it's structured, and, people pay into this, nonprofit church and all this versus, maybe now, I have this circle of 5 friends that we meet with on Friday nights, and we do some maybe kind of things that have those religious cues with them. Mm-hmm. We share a faith background, but also we're like playing poker or whatever.
Sure. It's not as formal, but maybe this idea of like, I have a community that I can say the word God, or I can say the word Christ, or I can say these things and not feel like, oh, I can't say it with this crowd. I think that's kind of like, I found my little community that I can say these words with, that I can also probably talk about my similar experiences growing up, right? Mm-hmm. But also say like, it's okay if I pray, or I believe in this, or we thank God that like my partner's pregnant, right? Simple things like that. And those are big deals, right? I think that you're saying that maybe you've seen more clients over time, if they move back towards faith, they kind of move back in a less organizational faith. Is that kind of like less
often it seems most of the time, or like they might keep trying to go back to an organization and feel disappointed, even if it's an affirming one, often.
Really?
And I think there's layers to this too, where like in the, especially like millennial and younger generations post-COVID, or whether we're post or not, in this phase, people are like not going back to church basically, right? Regardless of other facets of their identity and faith. But so there's that layered on top too. But yeah, there's this kind of like, I want to find other folks who have similar experience as me. So whether we're calling it church or not, some people do, some people don't, but it's just like, I'm not ditching this group altogether and want nothing to do with it. So you see that. And I kind of liked your like
metaphor, a joke about like, we're playing poker, but we can also talk about God, right? And so you're letting all exist, right? At once. And I think for a lot of people, that is a breath of fresh air to find people that really understand that. And I agree with you. Like even coming from like a Jewish upbringing, like there is something to be said if I meet other like queer Jewish folk, and like there is jokes or minute little things that we talk about that like maybe someone wouldn't grasp or wouldn't think is funny or playful in the way that I would. And not being against them, but they're like, I think I had a very long period of time of feeling like I can never go back to temple, or that place makes me uncomfortable, this or that. And maybe the one I grew up in does, but it doesn't mean that I kind of your non-organizational thing. Like if I have friends over that are also queer or really like affirming and cis and straight, like that also grew up somewhat Jewish, like there is something to be said about understanding that, right? And holding that. And it has really been my own healing kind of experience too, to be able to find where I align within Judaism and in my own sexuality and gender, right? And that's been a long time, and it's still ever evolving, I can tell you. And I'm sure that's true for
all
everyone,
of us,
right?
always, forever.
Yeah, because I can honestly relate to, and I know it's different with clients, and I grew up so much liberal, but like I just ran from anything that was Jewish, right, for a very long time. And I was very okay with who I was from a sexuality perspective and identifying as queer. But I was like, can't look in a temple. They're going to look down upon me. They're going to do this. And I'm not saying that doesn't occur still from my own experience, but I think it still is important. That part of my life growing up, when you talk about like loving each other or those jokes or the meals and the things, like that still holds importance to me, that cultural connection that I don't get with people that didn't grow up like that. So it does make complete sense to me. I love that that's it sounds like the people you work with eventually get to that space.
Yeah. Oftentimes, or even like find partners with too, honestly, with that like very shared experience oftentimes. But yeah, I think there is something too. I don't know if this is your experience or not, but it seems like when folks find that context where it finally feels it's a safe space and it's like we have like all these intersections of identity we have shared in our background, then even though there is so much, homophobia, transphobia, in whether it's at temple or, at church or wherever, it maybe feels a little bit like the world has a little bit sense of a safety, because maybe like from an attachment point of view, like there's that secure base of like, but I have my people. So those people out there, they're still out there.
Yeah,
but you're right. Like living it, like I noticed from my clients, at least, that for a lot of folks, when they find that context where they feel like I have my people here, then the world overall just seems less scary to them. There's less of that.
Could not agree with you more.
Like, that it's still out there, but like I have my space here and I'm okay.
You're not looking for like rose tinted glasses or everything is falling apart, I think is what you're saying. Absolutely. It's funny, as you were talking, like I'm at home, I'm looking around, and I thought to myself, I completely agree with your secure base attachment. I love it. I was like, oh, that's so me. And I literally picture like my friends and finding community as an anchor, right? And so it like protects, like we're anchored together, we're held together. And you're right, the world is still scary and overwhelming, and there still are people that don't like who I am, or think it's a choice, or think, right, or don't think I'm Jewish enough, or don't think you're the right Christian, like whatever. I'm making an assumption, but I feel like that's pretty on point. Okay. But you're right, there's something to be said, like it's less alone, right, when we have that secure base. Like the world's still hard, but we can do it, and I'm going to be okay. And I think very much so, growing up and questioning things or feeling different, for lack of a better way to put it, like makes us feel still alone. And I think I couldn't agree with you more about that secure base. It's so well put. And I'm sure you've watched people find that secure base in your practice and friends, it sounds like. I love that. Sorry. I got all excited. I love it.
Yeah. That seems to be it's like when you find that place, it feels like home, whatever it looks like.
It does.